Alora's ship crash-landed on Earth with a screech that echoed across the desert landscape, sending a plume of dust into the air. She staggered out of the wreckage, covered in grime and muttering under her breath. As an intergalactic diplomat, this was not part of the plan. She was supposed to land in a well-coordinated ceremony to begin peace talks with human representatives, not crash into a secluded mechanics garage. Yet here she was, staring at the wreckage of her ship and struggling with a malfunctioning piece of intergalactic technology attached to her body. It wasn't just any device. It was a highly sophisticated, ceremonial peacekeeping tool. A device designed for communication between species, a symbol of unity and diplomacy, and for some reason, it had decided that Alora's body would be the perfect host. She tugged at the clasp, but it only beeped at her in protest. Desperately, she scanned her surroundings, hoping for some kind of help, and her eyes locked onto a dilapidated garage nearby. Inside the garage, Mike was elbow-deep in grease, fixing an ancient engine that looked more like it belonged in a junkyard than anything functional. He barely noticed the dramatic crash landing outside until the dust settled, and the sound of high-pitched beeps broke the silence. Curiosity piqued, he wiped his hands on a rag and wandered outside, only to freeze at the sight of the alien woman standing awkwardly by the wreckage. She was striking, tall, with silvery blue skin and shimmering eyes that reflected the stars. But there was something off. She looked frantic, her hands fumbling with a device that seemed to be stuck to her body. "Need some help?" Mike asked, leaning against the doorframe. He wasn't sure what to expect from this sudden, otherworldly arrival, but a situation involving a woman in distress? That was familiar territory. Alora turned to him, relief flooding her face. "Yes, please. Something is wrong with this device. It's stuck." Her voice was accented, smooth, but with a clear note of panic. Mike squinted at her. "What kind of device is that? Looks like some fancy intergalactic gadget." He approached cautiously, inspecting the odd contraption attached to her torso. It emitted a soft hum and flickered with various lights, most of which Mike couldn't even begin to understand. "It's not supposed to be here," Alora explained, her tone a mix of embarrassment and frustration. "It's a peace tool, a symbol of my homeworld. I need it off now." Mike couldn't suppress a chuckle. "Well, I'm no expert in alien peace tools, but it looks like you've got yourself into a bit of a situation." Alora's face flushed a deeper shade of blue. "This is not how it's supposed to go. I'm supposed to be meeting Earth's representatives, not standing here with a malfunctioning device stuck on me like some malfunctioning human tech." She tugged again at the device, but it only made a noise like a squeaky door. Mike raised an eyebrow. "You want me to take a look at it?" Alora hesitated but nodded, trying to maintain her dignity. Mike approached and, without asking for permission, placed his hands on the device. It immediately made a noise, almost as if protesting his touch. "I don't know what this thing is, but I'm guessing it's one of those high-tech alien jobs," Mike said, inspecting the device more closely. "What does it do? Besides cause embarrassment, I mean. It's a ceremonial tool used in our peace negotiations," she said, her face now red with frustration. "It's supposed to signify goodwill between our people. But now it's stuck on me." "Well, I can see that," Mike said, grinning. "And let me guess, you can't just push a button to get it off?" Alora looked horrified. "This isn't a simple machine, human. It's not a toy. It's a vital piece of equipment." Mike snorted. "I've worked on plenty of vital pieces of equipment. Some of them are far messier than whatever this is. Let's see if I can figure it out." He fiddled with a few switches on the device, and suddenly it emitted a sharp, high-pitched beep. Alora's eyes widened, and she instinctively stepped back. "What did you do?" "Nothing," Mike said, backing away. "Just trying to reset it. Looks like it's more complicated than I thought. I'm gonna need some time to figure this out." Alora bit her lip nervously, feeling a surge of humiliation. "Please! I need it off now. There are negotiations to be made. I cannot go like this. People will see it. People will think." I don't think it's gonna be easy, but we'll get it off. Just hang tight. Mike was trying to reassure her, though he had no idea what he was doing. Alora's gaze softened. She was used to being in control, but this entire situation had her on edge. She was a diplomat, a leader on her planet. And now, here she was, stuck on a strange world, tangled up in a piece of alien technology, standing in front of a human mechanic who was cracking jokes at her expense. You're taking this very well, Mike said, observing her. Alora sighed. I don't have much choice. But believe me, I am not enjoying this. Mike chuckled. I'm just trying to lighten the mood. Don't worry, I'm sure we'll figure it out. He started poking at the device again, pulling and twisting at wires that were way above his pay grade. With every twist, it made another strange sound, squeaky beeps, buzzing vibrations, and one sound that might have been interpreted as a moan. Alora shot him a panicked look. What was that? Is it doing something? Mike couldn't help but laugh. Well, I wouldn't say it's exactly what I had in mind for our first contact, but it's reacting. At least that means we're getting somewhere. Alora's face turned an even darker shade of blue. This is so embarrassing. This was supposed to be a peaceful exchange, not this. Mike shrugged, clearly enjoying the absurdity of the situation. Hey, we humans are no strangers to awkward situations. Just hang in there. I'm sure we'll get it off, eventually. The device made a strange chime, as if agreeing with him. The more Mike worked on it, the more it seemed to take on a mind of its own. Whatever this alien technology was, it certainly didn't have a good sense of timing. As Mike fumbled with the device, Alora shifted uneasily. The situation was getting increasingly uncomfortable for her. She was an alien princess, after all, and now she was in front of a human mechanic, trapped in an embarrassing situation she couldn't control. I'm sorry, but this isn't what I signed up for, Alora muttered, half to herself. This is supposed to be an important meeting, a dignified event. And now look at me. Mike paused for a moment, then gave her a sympathetic smile. Look, don't stress. You're not the first one to get stuck in a weird situation. We'll get this sorted, and you'll be back to impressing diplomats in no time. Alora met his eyes, a faint smile tugging at her lips. There was something about Mike's casual attitude that was oddly comforting. Despite the absurdity of the situation, she found herself enjoying his company. Maybe this wasn't going to be as terrible as she thought. Maybe she could even, dare she say it, find a way to laugh about it. Mike wiped his hands on a rag, his mind still racing with confusion. The device was stubborn, and the more he tried to handle it, the more it seemed to resist. Whatever it was, it clearly wasn't just any piece of alien technology. It was something far more advanced than anything he'd ever dealt with. Alora stood awkwardly beside him, still holding the device as if her life depended on it, her posture tense, her face a shade of deep blue that was impossible to ignore. I really need this off, Mike, she said, her voice tinged with desperation. The longer I'm stuck here, the worse it'll be. You have no idea what kind of reputation I'm about to ruin. Mike glanced up at her, an amused smirk on his face. You're not exactly ruining it, you know. More like adding an unexpected twist to the whole thing. He gave a casual wave toward the mess of wires and alien buttons that weren't quite responding the way they were supposed to. Alora's eyes narrowed. You're not taking this seriously, are you? I am, Mike replied, tapping a few buttons on the device with a teasing smile. I'm just trying to lighten the mood here, princess. You're in an alien bodysuit, not an alien combat mission. We'll get it off. It's just going to take a little time. Alora crossed her arms, trying to maintain some semblance of dignity despite the situation. It's not funny. You don't understand. This device is part of my culture. It represents peace, diplomacy, and my status among my people. It's supposed to be a symbol of honor. Mike raised an eyebrow. Well, I can't say I've ever had anything stuck to me that represented peace or status, but I'll do my best. His hands fumbled with the wires, turning knobs that he hoped would make a difference. So, I'm guessing it's not just me who gets to play with this thing, huh? Alora shook her head, though a slight grin tugged at her lips. If it were up to me, I would have taken it off before I got here. But apparently, that's not an option. Mike chuckled. Yeah, well, that's the way these things go. If it wasn't so awkward, I'd probably enjoy the challenge more. Alora rolled her eyes. I don't see how you can joke about this. You're laughing at my discomfort. I'm not laughing at you, Alora, Mike said with a serious tone, though a mischievous glint still danced in his eyes. I'm laughing at the absurdity of the situation. You don't expect an alien princess to come to Earth and get stuck in some peace negotiation tool, do you? She sighed deeply, feeling a small flicker of frustration rise within her. I wasn't prepared for this, she admitted. I'm an ambassador, Mike. People are counting on me. And now I'm stuck here, quite literally, waiting for someone who has no idea what he's doing to fix it. Mike gave her a sideways glance. You're in good company, then. Half the time, I don't know what I'm doing either. He tugged at one of the wires again, and the device hummed loudly. He jumped back as it gave a strange whirring sound, followed by an oddly rhythmic beep that made Alora flinch. There we go. That should do it. Alora stood rigid, her body frozen with the realization that the situation had escalated beyond anything she could have imagined. She shot him a glare. What did you do? She demanded, her face flushed with embarrassment. Well, that's the thing about alien tech, Mike said casually. You can try to reset it, but sometimes it has a mind of its own. He grinned, but Alora's expression remained stern. I don't need you to make it worse, she replied, her voice tight. Relax, I'm not making it worse. Mike pulled back, wiping his hands again. I'm just making sure it doesn't. The device made an odd, almost musical chime, followed by a buzz that echoed through the garage. Alora instinctively pulled away from him, feeling the uncomfortable pressure building as the device hummed louder. What the hell is that? Is it supposed to do that? Mike raised his hands in mock surrender. I swear, this thing is acting like it's in love with you. It's doing its own thing. Probably trying to bond, or maybe it's just jealous of the attention I'm giving you. Bond? Alora raised an eyebrow, then looked down at the device as it buzzed again, this time more insistently. This is ridiculous. Well, yeah, Mike said, not even attempting to hide his amusement. But that's what makes it so fun. The more you panic, the more it seems to freak out. Just breathe, all right? I can't just breathe, she snapped, her voice rising in frustration. This is humiliating. Yeah, I get it, Mike said, his voice low and calming. But I'm telling you, freaking out won't help. It's just a device, all right? It's not going to explode, it's just a little enthusiastic. Give it some space. Let me try a different approach. Alora didn't reply, though she still looked more than slightly horrified. She felt the vibrations from the device intensifying against her body, and every time Mike made a move to fix it, it just seemed to get worse. You know, Mike said after a beat, his tone lighter now, if we keep going like this, I might just end up with a serious case of alien whiplash. So, what's the deal with these things? They just latch on and stay there forever? Alora turned to face him. You're making this a lot harder than it needs to be, she said, though the edge in her voice had softened. Do you have any idea what it's like to be stuck in something that's literally attached to your body? Can't say I do, Mike said, his eyes glinting with amusement. But hey, you're handling it way better than I would. If I were in your shoes, I'd probably be asking for a crash course in alien technology just to get this off me. Alora finally let out a soft laugh, though she quickly suppressed it, not wanting to show any more vulnerability. I don't think there's a crash course for that, she replied dryly. And I'd rather not be the laughingstock of the galaxy, thank you very much. Mike paused, glancing at her, before his expression softened. Look, Alora, I get it. This sucks. But hey, no matter how awkward this is, it's just a moment, right? You'll get through it. And you won't be alone when you do. Alora met his eyes, a flicker of appreciation crossing her face. Thanks, Mike, she muttered, her voice barely above a whisper. Mike gave a small, reassuring smile. No problem. Now, let's figure out how to get this thing off before it becomes a permanent accessory. For the first time since the device latched onto her, Elora felt a small sense of comfort. Perhaps this wasn't the worst thing that could have happened. Maybe it wasn't a catastrophe at all. With Mike around, the situation felt more manageable, even if it was still completely ridiculous. Mike wiped his brow, frustration creeping into his face as he stared at the device. It hadn't budged an inch. It was like the thing had been glued to Elora, refusing to let go, despite all the buttons and switches he had tried to manipulate. The noise it was making now had escalated from awkward to downright absurd. High-pitched beeps echoed through the garage, followed by strange mechanical purring sounds, making it clear that whatever was wrong, it was only getting worse. Elora shifted uncomfortably, the device's vibrations intensifying. She shot a nervous glance at Mike, her embarrassment growing by the second. Is it supposed to do that? She asked, her voice tight. Mike glanced over at her, trying to suppress a grin. Well, I can't say I've had this kind of problem before. But hey, it looks like it's reacting to you. That's something, right? Elora's eyes narrowed. This isn't funny, Mike. I can't keep standing here like this. It's humiliating. I get it, Mike said, his tone a little more serious as he took a step closer. But trust me, freaking out isn't going to help. We need to figure out what's actually making this thing tick. I don't need you to make it worse. Elora snapped, her voice rising with a hint of panic. Every time you touch it, it just reacts more, like it's responding to us. Well, I'd say that's a good thing, Mike said, shaking his head. Means we're getting somewhere. Maybe it's like a weird intergalactic pet. Needs some coaxing, I guess. Elora groaned. You're unbelievable. Mike gave her a smirk. Hey, I'm trying to lighten the mood here. You're the one who's taking it all so seriously. He took a deep breath, then got back to work, trying to fiddle with the wires. All right, let's try this. I'm just going to press this button and see if we can reset it. Elora stood still, her hands clenched tightly at her sides as Mike worked. Just please hurry. I'm not sure how much longer I can stand here like this. Mike paused and glanced up at her. No one said it was going to be easy, Elora. This is alien tech we're dealing with. You can't rush perfection. Yeah, well, this perfection is making me want to scream, she muttered under her breath. Mike grinned at her. You know, I'm starting to think that the device has got its own mind. Maybe it likes you. Maybe you've got a little alien fan club going. Elora shot him a glare that could melt steel. Stop making jokes, Mike. I'm being serious. This is embarrassing. It's like it's... She stammered, her face flushing brighter. Hey, I know, Mike said, cutting her off before she could finish the sentence. This isn't how you expected to start your Earth visit. But the more you stress, the more the thing freaks out. I can't fix it if you're all worked up. Elora closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. She had to admit Mike was right. The more she panicked, the worse the device acted. It had to be some kind of intergalactic logic system responding to her emotional state, just like an overly sensitive AI. She tried to calm herself down, even though it felt impossible. Every time she exhaled, the device pulsed again, sending a vibrating wave through her chest. Mike's eyes widened as he finally managed to push a button on the device that stopped the constant beeping. He pulled back, rubbing his chin. All right, well, that's progress. Elora looked at him suspiciously. Is it off? Not quite, Mike admitted, giving the device another frustrated look. But at least it's not beeping at us like it's about to launch itself into orbit. That's not reassuring, Elora replied, her voice dripping with sarcasm. I thought you said you knew what you were doing. I do. It's just, complicated, Mike said, his words trailing off as he scratched his head. He realized that his own irritation was growing. For all his bravado, he didn't know how to fix something this advanced, especially when it kept reacting in ways that didn't make sense. He was starting to wonder if maybe Elora wasn't the only one who was stuck in this mess. Alora shifted again, the pressure from the device still on her chest. She felt like she was wearing a heavy weight. It was hard to focus, especially with Mike so close to her, trying so hard to make it all work. She realized, somewhat reluctantly, that his humor and nonchalant attitude had somehow made her feel a little less on edge. She had to admit, the whole situation might be ridiculous, but Mike wasn't exactly making it unbearable. He wasn't making it better either, but at least he wasn't making her feel like she was completely alone in this. She exhaled slowly. I don't know if I can handle much more of this. Mike looked up at her, his eyes softening for a moment. I'm sure we'll figure it out. You just have to hang in there. I know it's uncomfortable, but we'll get it off. I hope you're right, Alora said, though her voice wavered. This whole thing is a nightmare. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty ridiculous, Mike said, finally letting out a laugh. I mean, who gets stuck with a peacekeeping device that doesn't know when to shut up? Alora raised an eyebrow. Peacekeeping device? Is that what you think this is? Mike grinned. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously here to create some peace, or at least some chaos. You seem pretty peaceful about it now. Alora couldn't help herself. She chuckled, even though it made her feel a little guilty. The situation was far from ideal, but for some reason, Mike's ridiculous comments were putting her at ease. He was somehow making it bearable, making her feel like it wasn't the end of the world. That's not funny, she said, but her lips twitched with the beginning of a smile. Mike shrugged. Yeah, maybe it is. But hey, if you can't laugh at the absurdity of the situation, you'll go crazy. Alora looked at him, her expression softening. You're right. I'm just frustrated. This is not how I imagined my first contact with Earth going. Hey, no one's perfect, Mike said with a grin. And at least it makes for a hell of a story. Imagine telling your friends back home that you got stuck in some peacekeeping tech during your first Earth visit. Alora's expression faltered for a second before she finally broke into a full laugh. You're terrible. Yeah, but you're laughing, so I must be doing something right, Mike said, his tone light. Alora exhaled in relief, realizing that despite everything, this was just one of those weird moments she'd have to look back on and laugh at. It wasn't the diplomacy she'd signed up for, but maybe she was learning that sometimes, the most unexpected and uncomfortable situations could still lead to something more, something real. Even if it was just a human mechanic making her laugh through a catastrophic device malfunction. I'm glad you're here, Mike, she said, her tone shifting as she looked at him. Even if you're ridiculous. Mike stepped back from the device, his hands on his hips, a mixture of exhaustion and satisfaction in his expression. All right, we've made some progress, I think. The beeping stopped, and it's not vibrating as much. Alora stood still, the weight of the device still pressing against her chest. She looked down at it with a mixture of frustration and disbelief. It's still on me, Mike. It's still stuck. And I feel like I'm being slowly crushed by it. Is that progress? Mike chuckled, wiping his hands on his shirt as he tried to hide his amusement. Well, it's progress in the sense that it's not making noise anymore. That's gotta count for something, right? Alora shot him a look, half amused but still clearly uncomfortable. I need it off, Mike. I've been stuck in this mess for hours. How much longer is this going to take? Mike took a deep breath. Look, I'm doing my best here. You're the first alien diplomat I've ever helped with a malfunctioning peacekeeping device. I didn't exactly train for this. Alora groaned. This is ridiculous. I can't just stand here and pretend everything's fine. I have a reputation to uphold. I'm supposed to be a symbol of unity and peace. And now I'm stuck in a glorified, malfunctioning bombshell of a device. Mike raised an eyebrow at her choice of words. Bombshell, huh? You're really going all out with this alien tech? It's not even a bomb, it's just a really annoying tool. Annoying doesn't cover it, Alora said, her voice laced with exasperation. I could have done without this embarrassment. Hey, it's not that bad, Mike said, shrugging as he turned back to the device. At least it's not trying to electrocute you or something. We're getting somewhere. I can feel it. Just a little more patience, Elora. Elora sighed, her eyes shifting from the device to Mike. She had never felt so helpless. I've spent my entire life training for peace, diplomacy, and negotiation. I've never had to beg a mechanic to fix a malfunctioning device. This isn't how I imagined my first encounter with humans would go. Mike grinned. Yeah, I bet this wasn't on your intergalactic itinerary. But look, things happen, right? The important thing is we're getting closer to fixing it. Just bear with me. Elora couldn't help but chuckle, even though she hated how absurd the whole situation was. You really do have a way of lightening the mood. I don't think anyone else would have the patience for me. Patience? Mike said with a smirk. I'm just trying to survive this whole mess with my dignity intact. Besides, you're not so bad for a stuck alien diplomat. I've dealt with worse. Elora raised an eyebrow. Worse? What, you've dealt with intergalactic incidents before? Mike shrugged casually. Well, not exactly. But I've had to fix my fair share of screwed-up equipment, broken cars, malfunctioning gadgets, you name it. This just happens to be a little more alien than what I'm used to. Elora rolled her eyes but couldn't stop the small smile that tugged at her lips. Well, thanks for not making me feel worse than I already do. No problem. I mean, who wouldn't want a malfunctioning peace device attached to their body, right? Mike said, his tone light. It's kind of like the universe's way of giving you a really weird souvenir. Elora let out a genuine laugh, the sound surprising even her. It felt good to release some of the tension that had been building up over the past few hours. I never thought I'd end up here, she said, her voice quieter now. And I never thought I'd find myself laughing with someone like you. Mike turned to her, surprised by the shift in her tone. What do you mean, someone like me? Elora's expression softened, her eyes meeting his for the first time without the usual tension. You're different. You don't treat me like I'm some alien princess here to save the universe. You just treat me like a person, well, an alien with a broken device. Mike grinned. Hey, I try. But seriously, you've got some serious patience for a stuck diplomat. Most people would have completely lost it by now. Elora paused, her eyes lingering on him for a moment longer than she had intended. There was something about his easy confidence, his way of turning every awkward situation into a moment of light-hearted humor, that was making her feel a little less alone in this absurd mess. Maybe it's because I'm trying not to completely fall apart, she said, her voice quieter now. But I think you're right. The more I let this get to me, the more it spirals out of control. I should just focus on the fact that you're here. You're helping me. Mike's grin widened. Well, yeah? That's kind of the idea. You don't have to be all formal and stiff with me. If we're gonna get through this, you've got to loosen up a little. Elora let out a breath, looking down at the device that was still attached to her, though it now seemed slightly less intrusive. It's still not coming off, though. What now? Mike looked over the device one more time, then gave her a reassuring smile. Well, now. I think we try one last thing. We take this thing off the same way it got on, slowly, carefully, and with a little bit of humor. You really think that's going to work? Elora asked skeptically. Well, we've come this far, haven't we? Mike said with a shrug. I figure it's worth a shot. Elora nodded slowly. All right. Let's give it a try. But if it gets worse, I'm blaming you. Mike laughed. Fair enough. But I'll take the blame if it means you're free of this thing. They both turned back to the device, and for the first time since the malfunction, there was a sense of calm between them. The awkwardness had finally begun to fade, replaced by a mutual understanding that despite the ridiculousness of the situation, they were in it together. No more tension, no more panic, just two people trying to fix a problem, one laugh at a time. As Mike worked the final components, Elora stood still, her gaze shifting between him and the device. She realized, almost with a sense of relief, that whatever came next, she wasn't alone. Mike might not be an intergalactic peacekeeper, but he was here, making this bizarre moment something she would never forget. In that strange, almost cosmic way, The device wasn't the only thing that had changed. "I guess this is it," she said softly as the device finally released its hold on her, falling away with a satisfying click. Mike grinned, wiping his hands on his pants. "Told you we'd get it off." Elora let out a deep breath, the tension lifting from her body for the first time in hours. "Well, I'll admit it. You're good at what you do." "Glad to be of service," Mike said with a wink. "Now, no more stuck devices, all right?" Elora smiled at him, a genuine, unguarded smile. "You know, I think I might actually be glad I ended up here, even if it was because of a broken device." Mike raised an eyebrow. "Yeah? Glad you got stuck with a mechanic?" Elora chuckled. "Maybe not what I expected, but yes." She paused, her tone turning more serious. "Thank you, Mike. I don't think I would have gotten through this without you." Mike nodded, the smile on his face softening. "Anytime, Elora. Anytime." As she turned to leave, she felt lighter, not just from the removal of the device, but from the unexpected connection she had made with a human mechanic. Perhaps this wasn't the kind of peace negotiation she had imagined, but it was one she wouldn't soon forget. And maybe, just maybe, she'd be back on Earth sooner than she thought.